when I was a small boy, and I have to confess to this, had a particular favourite recreation that I used to share with my grandfather. He used to take me surf casting up on the coasts of Hawke's Bay. And in those days, you could cast your line and know that you'd catch something. I think that was the thing I liked most about fishing, was the guarantee that you'd catch a fish. And then you'd take it home and proudly, and I'd give it to my grandmother. It would be filleted somewhere along the line, I don't know, but it would end up on my plate. And I was always very proud of myself, but in actual fact, that was an experience that was shared throughout generations of New Zealanders. Well, do that today. And certainly when I went and looked for fish yesterday in my supermarket, they are there all right, but I would have needed a small mortgage to purchase the same amount of fish that I was able to catch for free all those years ago. But the New Zealand fishing sector is an incredibly important part of our export sector. I think it's fair to say, and certainly I was around at the time when they were dividing it into quotable values and quotas and things like that, I wasn't all that convinced would do it, but we were sort of making it up as we go along. And certainly it's now, as far as the environmental lobby is concerned, perhaps one of the primary villains of environmental degradation, not just in New Zealand, but also internationally as well. And it has not enjoyed the most robust of reputations with that particular group. Well, the Board of Industry representative body Seafood New Zealand has just appointed an experienced diplomat, Leah Futschek, as its Chief Executive Officer. I remember Lisa from my earlier times and earlier generations. It seems such a long time ago, but it's wonderful to have her on the show to talk about her appointment to that position and some of the issues that the industry is facing. And she joins us now. Lisa, I have not seen you for such a long time. It is great to see, and I hope to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your show and wonderful to see your face on my screen as well. Long time.
How on earth did something... I'll tell you something about Lisa. Lisa was a very, very, very smart student at Otago University. She was head girl of Otago Girls High School. She went to university and got a double first-class honours in English and music. I think that's right, isn't it? And then...
That's absolutely right.
Got a master's degree, I think, in communications or something as well at Auckland University, and then wound away through Parliament into, which I guess was sort of the natural conclusion for your talents, the diplomatic service, and became a diplomat. How on earth does somebody go from diplomacy into working into a grunty job as a chief executive of Seafood New Zealand? That's an interesting pathway.
Certainly is, Michael. Thank you very much. You've traversed my CV incredibly well and remembered all of those facts well as well. But look, thank you very much for that introduction. Interesting question. Actually, as a diplomat with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade for 18 years, it's actually highly relevant to the work that I'm doing now because, of course, when you're working offshore, you're working around New Zealand's export sector, you're negotiating for good entry points for New Zealand product, both goods and services. And in fact, my first stint in our economic division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade was on the primary sector desk. And one of my bigger jobs as part of that was in fisheries. And in fact, that's probably where I first caught the bug, the fisheries bug, and became absolutely fascinated but also passionate about the role of fisheries, not only in an export sense but also domestically, how important it is from a cultural perspective as well. And not to mention what an incredibly important source of protein it is.
Yeah, good on you. So tell me though, all right, that's fine. The seafood industry itself in New Zealand, just give me some idea. What's its export value to this country?
Yeah, so approximately $2 billion in export value to this country each year, which is a significant amount. Makes us about number 7 in terms of export value. And that, of course, includes aquaculture products as well. So just over $2 billion. But in total, in terms of economic output, it represents about $5.2 billion to the New Zealand economy each year.
So you're talking about jobs and onshore onshore processing and things like that as well.
Exactly. It supports about 16,500 jobs, which is actually really important because it's important to understand that where the fish are landed, it's about 83 different communities around our coast, and they tend to be the smaller rural communities. So it really has a really positive impact for those communities.
All right, now the issues. First of all, Milky Snapper. They're starting to be caught in New Zealand, and a number of environmentalists have looked at the seafood industry and said, you are the problem. I don't know what I think the suggestion is that the snapper are Milky Snapper because they're not getting enough food to eat in the food chains in which they normally exist. And as a consequence of that, they've ended up as the sort of zombie fish of the New Zealand inshore fishery. You reject those charges?
Yes, I think it's really important that we base our decisions and our considerations of the issues on the science. And actually, Michael, I want to congratulate you. I tuned in a little bit to your show previously and heard you talk about the fact that you're a great proponent of science, which is highly commendable, and of course is something that our industry is very clear about. The science must prevail. And there is no evidence that the commercial fishing industry is the problem. You've already summarised some of those issues there, and the best that we can tell from science so far is that there is a problem further down the food chain in terms of some of the issues relating to our snapper fishery. But actually, we're still a fair way away in terms of defining exactly what the problem is. But I think to put it at the feet of the commercial fishing industry is just frankly wrong.
Okay, it might end up that way if the science gets there. You're saying the science isn't there yet. Can I ask though, are you also suggesting there might be other environmental factors, for example, like, the warming of inshore seawater, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. Climate change is having a discernible impact on the spawning of our fish stocks, on where our fish stocks congregate, on the food chain within the ocean and marine environment. So, we cannot understate just how much an impact that climate change is having.
Okay, so, all right. The other thing, of course, is that I talked to you about the paucity of fish or the scarcity of fish available and their price in New Zealand just for ordinary consumers. Does that suggest that we're overfishing in our economic zone when fish doesn't seem to be as plentiful or as if you like, commercially available to ordinary consumers?
Yeah, you've got a couple of issues there, Michael. I mean, I'll pick off the first one, which is the availability of fish. In fact, the science tells us that in large part, from the year 2000 onwards, our fish stocks have been gradually growing in abundance. Healthy, abundant fisheries makes us very happy, obviously, as a commercial industry. So, but I think we can put that in large part, and you made a reference to that earlier, to our quota management system, the QMS system,
That's right.
Which was brought in around about 1986. Now, look, I mean, just some quick stats, which I think will be really interesting. 642 stocks are in the QMS, and that represents about 92 species or species groups. And what we know is that the vast majority of those stocks are in really good health, to the extent that just recently in what's called the sustainability round, where MPI assesses a range of stocks just to see, they've assessed the science, there've been a whole range of surveys, they take public submissions, and they either adjust the total allowable commercial catch up or down, depending upon the health of the stock. So just to give you another couple of stats, of the 18 stocks that came through the sustainability round in October, 13 of them went up and only 5 remained the same or went down. So in fact, our fisheries are in pretty good health, Michael.
Okay, Greenpeace have ran a campaign, I think they took you to court, I can't remember which one, just recently over, is it orange roughy and catch limits, and the Ocean and Fisheries Minister Shane Jones has decided to cut the total catch limit for the declining orange roughy stock in the Tasman by about 1,200 tonne, or 57%. Is that as a result of overfishing?
It could be as a result of a range of things. Also, it's probably useful to say that in terms of our surveying of some of those stocks, and we use, reputable science providers, whether that's our own NIWA or also CSIRO in Australia, to do surveys of the stocks. Actually, the orange roughy stocks are pretty difficult to survey and get accurate estimates. So I guess you could say that a precautionary approach has been taken. We absolutely don't want to be fishing our stocks so that they fall below the biomass required to support positive recruitment and growth. So that is absolutely a consideration that the Minister makes when he decides on those total allowable catches.